Hello, welcome or welcome back. My name is Arin, and we talk about books, movies, and video games. But today, we're specifically going to talk about some summer horror book and movie recommendations. I'm so excited about this video, even though it is fully raining, just downpour outside, because it is the Pacific Northwest in June. I'm fine. I don't even know why you would ask. I'm just trying to hold on to my sanity, wait for the sun to come back, and when it does, every single year, when summer starts to kick in, I just am at the height of my horror mood. I don't really know why. I think most people it tends to be in the fall, but for whatever reason, summer is like my number one just horror fiend season. I love it. I'm always looking out for some daylight horror, some summer camp horror, some summer vacation horror, whatever it is. I love it all, and I'm so excited to share some with you. I have a really good mix of subgenres, scariness level, and like age/popularity, especially with the movies. I have some oldies that I'm really excited to talk about. So hopefully you walk away from this video with some media to consume, some spookiness to experience. Okay, let's just jump in and do the books first. Okay, so the first book I want to talk about today is Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle. This book is about a teenage girl who lives in a small, very, very religious town where the main source of income is this gay conversion therapy camp. At the beginning of this book, this girl is very dedicated to the church, to her parents, to her community, but she's having these weird memories resurface, and as you can tell from the cover, she's starting to cough up flies. She's trying to figure out what's going on, what's hiding underneath the reality she's experiencing on a day-to-day basis, because something is hidden there. While most of this book does not take place in the summer camp, Camp Damascus, it still has very summery, slightly campy vibes. And while this is obviously full of queer representation, the thing that I loved the most about this was the autistic representation. The author, Chuck Tingle, he's autistic, and the main character is as well. And for me, to date, this is my favorite autism representation in a book. Although probably neurotypical people wouldn't necessarily pick up on how autistic this book is, for me, reading a subtly but clearly autistic character save herself and fight the bad guys through like specifically autistic means. It was just really, really special for me. If you have trauma with people not accepting your queerness or your autisticness, there's some of that in the beginning of this book. And so, take care of yourself. Don't read it if you don't feel up to it. But just know that by the end, it is so empowering in both of those respects. It just gave me a hero that I really needed to see. So I definitely recommend it to anyone. It's just great, fun summer horror. Okay, next up is a graphic novel. It is called Guest in the House by Emily Carroll. So this book is about a younger woman. I want to say she's in her mid-20s, and she has recently married an older man who already has a child, and his first wife had passed away. He doesn't like talking about it, neither does the daughter. As she moves into their beautiful lake home and tries to get close to this daughter who's, mourning her mother, it's a troubled relationship. As she's trying to get closer to her new husband, their past starts coming in the form of a ghost in the house. But our main character, at the end of the day, isn't too upset to have this ghost around. This is another great queer summer horror if you're looking specifically for something for June, maybe. It is so summery. It feels like a family vacation out at the lake house. The artwork is so beautiful and also so icky. It just really effectively builds tension and confusion, and you just watch this main character slowly unravel in such an interesting, fun way. I was so pleasantly surprised by this book. I definitely recommend it. Obviously, it's in this video. Next up is a book that was very hyped a couple of years ago on BookTube. You've probably heard of it, but I can't not bring it up. That book is The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. This was one of my favorite books of 2023, and very genuinely one of the scariest books I've ever read in my whole life. Because I'm terrified of saying something too much when sharing the synopsis of this, I'm just going to read the blurb from Goodreads. This is the story of a serial killer, a stolen child, revenge, death, in an ordinary house at the end of an ordinary street. All these things are true, and yet they're all lies. You think you know what's inside the last house on Needless Street. You think you've read the story before. That's where you're wrong. In the dark forest at the end of Needless Street lies something buried, but it's not what you think. First of all, this is on this summer horror list, partially because I read it in the summer. I read it last summer during a weekend, and it is one of the only books that I've ever read that was so horrifying that it was like ruining my life. I was like, I have to finish this book so it can be behind me, so I can continue on with my life and heal from it. It ruined like 2 weeks of my life, and it's so good. Horror fans are so weird. It was so good though, okay? So good. If memory serves, I do think this book does take place in summer, but it just has a really great, like, summer break, hunkered down, it's sweaty, and I just want to be terrified. You know what I mean? I just think it works really well for summer. At least that was my experience. This book shocked me, gutted me, made me cry, made me unable to sleep at night. I mean all of this in the best way possible. Like, it was just so effective and made me feel so deeply and just scared the shit out of me. It's so good. Really switching gears now to just a fun, silly, campy nostalgia horror. If you don't know, nostalgia horror is like my very favorite subgenre. I love a good, especially 70s, 80s, 90s set horror. I love camp. I love dark humor. And of course, the king of this is Grady Hendrix. Let's all be honest with ourselves. And for this particular video, I wanted to recommend The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. This is about a group of moms, and I want to say the Carolinas, ? But they're a group of moms who have joined a book club. And, you know, they try for a while to read, like, legit fiction, but then they just get wrapped up in true crime. And so they're just, like, getting together, drinking wine, chatting about true crime. But eventually, one of the moms gets a new neighbor. And based on all of her true crime reading past with this book club, she thinks something is up with him. And, you know, based on the title, maybe something a little supernatural is up with him. This is just so much fun. Like, just some super ultra 1990s stay-at-home moms kicking ass. Female friendship. You know the trope of, like, the horror movie mom that will just do literally anything for her kids? One of my very favorites. I love horror movie moms, and that's what this whole thing is. Just kicking ass. But it's still funny. It's so campy and retro and just, like, popcorn candy fun time reading. If you're looking for something that's just, like, fun and easy for your summer, but you still want some spookiness, this is a really great choice. Okay, next up is The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. This was one of my honorary mentions from 2023. I really loved this book. It is about a woman who is recently divorced, and she goes to stay with her uncle in his Museum of Curiosities while she gets back on her feet, and helping him clean it up, run it, etc. He has to get a surgery done, and so for a little while she is left in charge of the museum on her own. She finds a hole in the wall, like a little doorway that wasn't there before. When she goes through the doorway, she is all of a sudden in hallways and rooms that are architecturally impossible. Eventually, she takes her friend who runs the coffee shop next door in with her, and they try to figure out what's going on, and it just gets weirder and weirder and weirder. This is really great portal cosmic horror. If you like when things get really weird but also really funny, this will be a good time for you. It has that classic T. Kingfisher humorous prose and very funny main character, but it is still like really really horrifying, which makes for a really fun, light, but still scary time. I honestly can't remember what, like, season this takes place in, but it's on this list because it really, really reminds me of a straight horror version of my number one favorite summer show, Gravity Falls. And when I was reading it, it just like it had that same summer vacation feeling as Gravity Falls does. Okay, last but not least is a book that I read very recently and really, really enjoyed, and that's Diavola by Jennifer Thorne. This is about a woman who goes on family vacation in Italy with her absolute nightmare of a family. Okay? This is a supernatural horror. It has really great ghost scares, haunted house scares, dark European history, all that good stuff. Small rural town horror. It has all of the greats. And yet, the scariest thing about this book is this woman's family. It's pretty relentless. Like, it'll go from just, like, the most excruciating family dinner scene you've ever read in your life to horrifying supernatural scares. Just back and forth, you know? Like, do you want real life familial horror or do you want supernatural? Oh, I have both for you. And because it takes place in the Italian countryside in this vacation home, it has some of the strongest summer horror vibes in this list, I would say. I loved the characters, I loved the setting, the plot, the writing. Like, this really worked for me, and I really hope it works for you too. Okay, let's jump into movies. So the first one is featured on my shirt. And that is Poltergeist, the original 1980s version, okay? I love the 80s. I really love the 80s so much. A few of these are from the 80s, you're welcome. But Poltergeist, in particular, one of my very, very favorite haunted house movies. You've got the classic middle-class family out in the suburbs. The mom stays at home and takes care of the 3 kids, and the dad is a real estate agent. You know, I think they're in California. It's all very, very white bread. You know what I mean? Very Wonder Bread. The youngest daughter has started talking to the TV at night when it turns to just static, because, you know, in the 80s, TV stations didn't run 24 hours a day. At like midnight or something, they turned off and it was just static. And so when that happens, she has started to have conversations with the static of the TV, and no one else can hear what she's evidently hearing. At first, they think it's pretty funny. Like, the family is like, wow, this is pretty crazy. This is kind of fun. More and more spooky things are going on in the house, and it kind of all feels like parlor tricks. But eventually, that youngest daughter goes missing within the house, and the family needs to do everything they can to get her back. This is a perfect summer horror because it goes between, like, really fun family scenes in the day to spooky town at night. I'm gonna get controversial here for a moment. I'm sorry, Tobe Hooper, the real director of this movie. There's this, like, controversy. I don't know if it's a controversy, but there's this argument over how much Tobe Hooper directed this movie and how much Steven Spielberg, who produced it, took over the directing of this movie. Respect to Tobe Hooper. But it has that Steven Spielberg secret sauce. It has that E.T. Goonies secret sauce that just makes it like a fun summer 80s blockbuster, but horror. This one isn't too scary. If you're a little squeamish, you'll probably be okay with this one. But it's just fun. It is just so fun. Next, we have an oldie. This one is from the 1960s. It's called The Innocents, and it is one of my favorite movies of all time, like top 3. This is based on the short story The Turn of the Screw, and it's about a woman who is hired by this rich guy in, like, I think it's Victorian England. And he's like, look, my brother and his wife died. I'm saddled with their 2 kids. I don't want anything to do with them. I'm out here being a bachelor in London. So I need you to go out to the country and take care of those 2 kids and literally never talk to me again. Don't let them talk to me. You don't talk to me. I don't care what's going on. You go out there and you're on your own. It's just you guys out in the country. And I'm going to keep being a bachelor and running my business and being a business boy. She goes out and she meets these 2 lovely kids. She's thrilled about this job. She's in a huge manor, beautiful grounds, these 2 really sweet kids. And she's always wanted to be a governess. She's very nurturing. She's very excited about this job. But she slowly learns about the last governess and the man who kind of controlled her life and the way that those 2 have gone on to control these 2 children. This is a slow one. It's in the 1960s, but the slow, quiet dread of this movie is so effective. It might be because I've just always watched old movies and TV shows, and so they're still really effective for me. So if you're not used to them, it might not be as scary to you because it doesn't have like the modern day gore or jump scares or any of that. It is just a slow, gothic, like you're slowly being choked with dread. It is beautiful, it's heartbreaking, and it's horrifying. This is perfect for summer as well because we got ghosts in the daylight, baby, okay? Which is always so exciting because it's so rarely done. One of the shots in this movie is one of the scariest shots I've ever seen. And, like, take that with a grain of salt. Like, I'm not saying it's gory at all. I'm not saying there's really any practical effects or anything at all. It's just a shot out in the daylight. And it, like, chills me. God, I love this movie. If any of you watch it and you enjoy it at all, please let me know. I feel like I was put on this earth to make people watch this movie. When I was in middle school, I forced a group of my friends to watch this movie one afternoon, and they all still talk to me about it. So that's what I was like in middle school, but it's worth it. Please give it a shot. It is so beautiful. Okay, a big switcheroo, okay? To my number 1 favorite summer movie of all time, okay? Number 1, the first day, every single year, the first day that really feels like summer, once it gets dark, I put this movie on, and it's like the initiation of the whole season, okay? We're back in the 80s, baby. It is time for The Lost Boys, okay? Whew. I love this movie so much. Okay, so focus. This is about 2 brothers who move with their recently divorced mom in with her dad, their grandpa, out in a coastal town in California. As the young brother makes friends with some, like, equally nerdy boys who he meets in a comic shop who are very obsessed with vampires, the older brother gets very interested in this one girl that he keeps seeing out at the boardwalk at night. But it turns out that she is already claimed by the head of the local vampire gang. You guys, the mullets. The denim on denim on denim on denim. The music, the acting, the jokes. Oh my god. It is like the most 80s thing you've ever seen in your life. With just these like bleach blonde mullet. Like punk vampires riding motorcycles and turning chow mein into worms. It is so good. Okay, I will say, like, this movie is not scary. It's on this list because it has the horror trope of vampires, but it's really just like a fun, summery vampire, funny, campy movie, and I'm just like too excited just talking about it. I love it so much. The shots of the boardwalk at night, you know, with all of the multicolored lights. The way the vampires are handled, all of the acting, all of the jokes, the music, the opening credits with People Are Strange, the who is it? The Echo and the Bunnymen version. Please watch this movie for me. I highly doubt you'll regret it. At worst, you'll just have like a fun, silly time. At best, you'll become obsessed for the rest of your life like I am. Ooh, okay. Another one that I never see anyone talk about anymore. It's from the 1970s, and it is a really fun sci-fi horror. It is The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Again, the 1970s version. Oh, the last one starred Kiefer Sutherland, and this one stars Donald Sutherland. You're welcome to the Sutherland family. So this one is about... Oh, what's that job? Why is the running theme on this channel me not knowing the name of any job? Health inspector. He's a health inspector. We follow a health inspector as he notices slowly the city of San Francisco, his home, getting weirder and weirder. People are starting to act strange, and this strangeness is multiplying really quickly. And I mean, he's just a health inspector, you know? He's kind of out of his league, but he's trying to recruit his friends to figure out what is going on with the people around them. This has more great daylight horror and like truly vomit worthy 1970s practical effects. Like, this movie's disgusting. Don't eat while you're watching this. It is so gross in only the way that 1970s practical horror effects can be. It's disgusting. And it does this really, really cool thing with the score where it's like the musicality of street sounds. It's just a collection of percussive street sounds as you're going with this like really chaotic cinematography. It is so paranoia inducing. Like, you really just feel like sweaty and scared and claustrophobic, even though you're going through the town of San Francisco with these characters trying to figure out what's going on. You're also just stuck. It is so unsettling and disorienting and weird and gross. This is another slower one. You need some patience to really get into it, but once you do, it is magnificent. Okay, the next two are the first two in a series, and if you're a horror movie person, you've heard all about these, but I still have to talk about them because they're perfect summer horror, and that is X and Pearl. So X is about a crew who rents a cabin from this elderly couple so they can film some porn in it. And as they're filming, things take a turn for the slasher. This movie is, again, full of daylight horror. It is so, like, 1970s dirty, sweaty, just terrifying. The characters, the setting, the kills, the tension are executed so well. The performances, I mean, Mia Goth, oh my god. It is all just phenomenal. It is so scary, and I love a final girl who goes against all of the stereotypes of what a final girl is supposed to be. It's so refreshing, it's so terrifying, so good. And then Pearl is a prequel to X, and it has like the opposite vibe. This is like mid-century golden Hollywood Technicolor musical. It's not a musical, but that's what it looks like. That's what it feels like. It is grand and colorful, and it follows Pearl, who is the owner of the property in X. And it's all her origin story about wanting to become famous, wanting to be a dancer, an actor, and being stuck taking care of her family in this farm town during, I believe, World War II. And it's just about her desperation and these urges within her that she can't control. It is so unhinged and truly mind-blowing performance from Mia Goth. I finished this movie and just like stared at the screen for a while, just thinking about Mia Goth. She did a fantastic job. But this also, lots of sunlight horror, and the juxtaposition between how gory and troubling and horrifying this is with that Technicolor, beautiful, grand style. It's so fresh and unique and fun. And the third one comes out soon, and it's set in the 80s, baby! I'm so excited. Okay, the last movie on this list. It's an obvious one, okay? I can't not bring it up. But it's an obvious for a reason, folks. And that is, I Know What You Did Last Summer. This is another one that's not really scary, but it has perfect summer vibes. This is about a group of teenagers who, one night, they're partying, they drive out to the beach and make out or whatever it is teenagers do. I don't know, when I was a teenager, I was watching The Innocents, so I don't know. They're being teenagers out on the beach. And when it's time to drive home, they're driving around, you know, like the really twisty roads in their coastal town around the ocean, and they hit someone. They hit a man. They manslaughter him. They go out, see this dead man on the road, and try to figure out what to do. And they ultimately make the dumb decision that they are not going to risk their futures by turning themselves in. They're going to dump the body and hope that no one ever finds out. A year later, they're all back from college or whatever it was they're doing for the year, and they get these notes, unsigned, that just say, I know what you did last summer. And it gets slashery, folks. If you haven't watched this, I watched this for the first time last year. If you haven't watched this yet, I think you just should. It's pretty short. It's just one night of your life, you know? It's a really fun time. It is so 90s. It's so coastal. It's just like, get some popcorn and some candy, get comfy on the couch, and have a dumb time. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, is this a mind-blowing, genre-defining, life-changing horror movie? No, it's not. And I don't think it's trying to be, and I don't think it needs to be. I feel like this weird need to defend this movie because I think people don't like it very much. But it's just fun. It's just so fun and silly and fun. So just pretend it's the 90s and you're a teenager. Eat some sour Skittles and enjoy your life. You know? Okay, well, those are all of my summer horror recommendations. Please, by all means, put some summer horror book and movie recommendations in the comments for me if you have any. I will say, I know I need to watch Midsommar. I know. But if you have any other recommendations, please let me know in the comments, and feel free to like and subscribe. I talk about movies, books, video games, I make vlogs, and we just have a fun, silly goose little guy time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.